Say, can you stream? Chris Courtney here, new Pragmatic. Somehow I just lost all of my... Did I just delete the general channel by accident? No, I did not. Okay. I had to see. Like, what happened? What did I do? Hope you're doing well where you are. It's birthday edition of the Feedback Loop. And I'm super excited to get this underway. We're just waiting on CouchBot to fire. Hoping that I'm getting everybody in that's wanting to get in. Hey, look at that! Look at that! I've got a whole stream of people. I had a birthday wish, and it was to see everybody with their masks on. So it's nice to see some people taking advantage of that. I do believe in social proof. I believe in social proof highly. And if there's anything that we need to be doing right now, it's frankly protecting your neighbor. And the way you protect your neighbor right now is you wear a mask. Period. End of story. I realize that's kind of for some reason that is a controversial stance to take, like not wanting to kill your neighbor. But that's where we're at. So. This morning, when we get started, when this comes through, we're going to take a look at a couple things here. Rebecca's in, and Charlie's in as well. Charlie is just starting the program, and had a great meeting with Charlie. Looking forward to chatting more. John Balboa has dropped in. Well, he dropped in a couple of notes related to our discussion on finding your way in to a. The question was actually, could I land a full-time gig could I land a leadership gig without having a degree? And the answer is always maybe. There's never a definitive no. There's no way that could happen. If I told you you could, you'll never be a millionaire if you just paint murals, unless you happen to be the muralist that painted the Facebook headquarters and got paid in stock, and then that stock went through the roof, and now that muralist is a millionaire. Yet they can probably still only afford like a one-bedroom apartment in San Francisco. Economics. CouchBot's fired though, and we're gonna go ahead and get this underway. So let me find my voice. Greetings, one and all. Chris Courtney here again for New Pragmatic. This is the Feedback Loop. It's birthday edition of the Feedback Loop because I am the birthday boy. And I couldn't think of a place that I'd rather be than working with you folks and going through and giving feedback on the projects that you're working on. One of the things that I've realized over time is regardless of what I'm up to, there are people out there in the world that have extremely different needs out of time. For some people, a holiday is a time when you just relax, you chill out, you do your thing. For other people, that is the very moment, the single moment that they need to slingshot forward. The other thing to realize about holidays, folks, is what's a holiday for me and you in the States might not be a holiday for somebody elsewhere, because this, we're on the YouTubes. We're streaming, and we're talking to people in different parts of the world, and that's also, I do not have a running calendar of every holiday happening in every country, but I will tell you that that people celebrate Independence Day in just about every country around the world. Sometimes in America we tend to get focused on like 4th of July. Canada Day was July 1st. Australia Day, I think, is like January 26th. I can tell you that India Day is August 16th because I was there and it was nuts. Not in the way that you might think nuts. Like honestly, this was very interesting to me. In India, they do drink alcohol. However, on India Day, which is a national holiday, all alcohol sales are banned. True story. So there is no like Budweiser bikini beach bash going on in India because they take it pretty seriously. Like it's like Happy Independence Day. A lot of people died for this. Maybe we shouldn't get loaded right now. So something to think about there in the up there in the old noggin. Um, I'm going to share my screen though because we do have a couple of things to get to as we move forward. And the first of those, we're going to work here with Rebecca. Rebecca has started moving her presentation into Figma, which is good. Which is good. You've got a grid. You copied and pasted the text. You also edited and revised it into the frames. You're looking for suggestions on the text and supporting image. I'll work with the design next week. I invited you there. Okay, awesome. So let's take a look at that. So this is Rebecca's slide templates, and I'm just going to hide my tools so we can zoom in here. And so it looks like, so this is slide 1, observe, know your customer. There's no better way than by observing and interacting with them. Community matters. Transparency above all. Okay, so I've got it. The one thing that I would encourage you to do is think about this in scale. Okay, if we're going to bother putting images on here, let's make sure that you can see the details. Some images, when it's really simple, like this collection of glasses, like I could because of the way the photo is framed, I can see what's going on here. In this image, it's less clear to me what's happening. I see what I thought it was a barista, but I see rolls. It's something kitchen, but I'm not sure. Am I at the counter, or the people over there at the counter? Like, I can't figure out what their role is. There's something behind. They are behind the counter. The other people are either waiting to order or waiting for their food. I'm not sure which though. There's no better way to do that than by observing and interacting with them. So I'm not sure the image gets there either. But overall, what I really want to do is I want to go big with that image. So I'm just going to copy this one over. Let's come down here. So if I had this text, the big thing that I want to do is I want to, first of all, I want to see if is there a grid in play here. Looks like there is. Okay, let's see what that okay, so the grid is here, but we're not like using it right now. It's just like kind of stuff. So the second thing I want to do is I'm going to add another grid, except this time I'm going to go columns. No, I'm sorry, I'm going to go rows. And I'm going to like give ourselves margin, let's say 100 off the top and bottom. I don't really want anything above that or below that. That's important. Okay. And the reason I say that is particularly at the bottom. Okay, the bottom is the whipping child here of all things that are important to presentation design. If you are showing something on a screen, dependent on where that screen is, the stuff on the bottom is in danger. The stuff on the top is never in danger. Like you've always got a clear shot at what's above, what's at the top of the screen. But the bottom of the screen is always like iffy. I don't know if I'm gonna have a clear shot at that. So that's one great thing about having this. You don't have like this is not really super important information here. It's just saying, hey, this is your design. You probably want to go ahead and make that 2020 instead of 2019. You also might want to, you could just pull the date off entirely, to be honest with you. It's not going to kill you to not have the date on there. But from there, the next thing I want to do is I want to think about, okay, so what's going on with the spacing here? Do I need the logo up here? Would the logo be better down here? I don't really know. But it's not critical, so I'm just gonna like put it to the top. This information, it seems like, would be ideal up here, but what that does is it constrains me with what I can do with the image, because the image can get larger, but it can only go so far. So in this particular instance, I begin thinking about, okay, well, what if I just got rid of these and went big with the image across, so that we got to see what this was talking about. The flip side of that is, okay, so let's get rid of the B for a second. And again, I like big photos. I cannot lie. I'm curious if this has got a... Okay, so this could be cropped differently. So let's crop this and see if we can we get back the hands. The hands were pretty important. Okay, so we've got that. That's a better crop on this image. It's still not perfect. Is there something where I can I bring this down? And ultimately, it does come down to a question of what do I want to do screen to screen? Do I want big image and then text over the top? Do I want do I want like big image from the side and text over here? Oops, that's no good. So like I could do text off to the side. That'd be possible. But I'm not completely certain with what I want. The thing about text off to the side is you got to be careful. Are there going to be words like environmental or something that would be long and push out? I don't have a firm answer on that. This would allow us to bring the icon back up, and also this other information. So you could do something like that, and now let's look at this and let's just hide those. And if you did that, if you use that consistently, that could definitely be a design that worked. I threw that off a little bit. What I would probably do is what I'm sensing is I'm uncomfortable with the gutters here. So what if I said 40 instead of 20? And then what that allows me to do is move this over, move that over, and this just has a little more air. But that's really, like, if we look at where we started at with this, and another thing I like to do is I like to take, like, give me a long example of the typography, which would be right here, and let's put that in here. And obviously, like, goes straight down, so that doesn't work. Now, I will say this. This is type that doesn't necessarily need to all be on the screen, okay? This is your conversation, all right? So if this is your conversation, the question I have for these secondary screens is really, how much of this type am I going to need? Should I truncate it and say, you know what, I want no more than that? And then if you want to talk more, that's fine. If you want to talk more, that's good. But let's constrain what we're actually showing on screen. Let's look at this in a different way, though. Let's go big. I'm tired of the quiet presentation here. Let's go big. Let's remove these from this particular screen, okay? We're going to go with, let's make this more of a watermark. Let's put this at the top. Actually, let's pull back our layout grid so we can see it. Let's pull this across. Now you can, like, if you say, hey, I want it to be 2 lines, that's fine. And then let's just go big. Okay? And now, if I can remember which way I hide. Come on, Figma. Totally had this written down. No, that's not what I'm looking for. 1 second. View. Oh yeah, sorry. Control G. I gotta remember my tools. Anyway, so this is a secondary presentation. You could also you could still come back in and put something like, you know, do your logo up in the upper corner, out of the way. Yeah, let's just turn our grids on and see what we've got there. Just yeah, so I'm not where I need to be. I need to have it right there. You could do it there. You could also do it down here. And you know, in that particular instance, what I would probably do is I would fill it. You know, I'm just trying to get a color on it so I can see it. We're gonna fill it. We're gonna and like you just have this bee that's like hanging out there constantly throughout the presentation. So there's a couple of different ways that you could look at it. What that really brings into question is, okay, so how does this work? How does this first screen work? And you know, that's really where I see I really want this to have a clean grid applied to it. Yeah, let's go ahead and turn that on so we can take a peek. I'm always gonna like say, hey, maybe we should, you know, if you want to keep it here, that's fine. Keep it there. Sorry, whatever that blob is. I'm not a fan nor a detractor of blobs. This is your presentation, not mine. Let's go ahead and add another grid. And I should have just saved that other one as a style, but I'm gonna be lazy. I'll put the 100 on there. Oops, not gutter margin. Yeah, measure that in. Measure all of this information in. Consistent spacing, okay? And I would say that, like, if I'm keeping it consistent, let's just line it up with the grid. Line it up with something so that it makes sense. You know, if you've got the logo here, I think I'm fine with removing that stuff for the actual page. If you want to keep it in there, yeah, this works too. So here it is. I think I'd probably try to keep this, you know, this little blob thing, like, be as consistent as you can. You know, just because I'm not a huge fan of it, I just want it in there if you're going to use it. Okay. Otherwise, ditch it. You don't have to worry about it with this version, because this version blows everything up and just says big image. Another third option is to come through and do something along the lines of this. So I'm gonna go crazy. I'm gonna like just make this the whole thing. right? So in this model, I'm going from keep learning or whatever your tagline is there to a presentation that then I would then come over and say, okay, I've got two of these here, so I want just the one. I'm now going to say image, and I'm going to, let's adjust. Yeah, I just want to make it black and white for a second. What I like to do is I like to do this two-step transition where I'm now going to call attention to this bit of information. I'm going to put this in auto. I'm going to use auto layout around this so that I automatically give myself a color block to work with. How you decide that you want to set this up is up to you. I'm going to put 20 and 20 on it. Maybe I'll even say 40 and 40. Well, not 40, but 4D to kind of give that some space. I can still kind of come in here and adjust the size of it, although I think I should probably have, yeah, there we go. So now we've got a presentation that is like 3 slides deep, and allows you to do something. I'll make a little prototype here really quick. So let's go here, and then let's go here to here. Let's put this in presentation mode. I am curious about the size of your slides as well. So anyway, let's scale this down to fit. So there, okay. So let's keep learning, and then you've got the setup shot, okay. And the setup shot is really intended to allow you to pull somebody into the scene, and it's on the next transition. You'll notice that it like snapshots in, okay, but all the color goes out, and it brings the type into play. This is a very common video transition that you'll see, where it's almost like you can almost hear the camera click in the background. So like this is very much like we're seeing the action, you're pulling them in, and then you're stopping them. Okay, what you want to really have is an understanding of the timing and how this works, and you only want to use this if it allows you to seize upon something that a point that you really want to get across. And this is effective for a presentation like yours, because you're going to do this over and over and over again, with all of these different topics that you're going through. So just understand that it's not a situation where I see like, oh, it's clearly this way, or it's clearly that way, or it's clearly this other way. I think there's always like 10 different ways to make this work, and once you kind of set up the tone, I think you're okay to move forward. But the problem right now is like, okay, so you've kind of got some stuff on a screen, and that's fine. How are we structuring this? Because how we structure it determines like what type of photos we're going to use, what the length of the typography that we're going to include is going to be. So determining the structure, it kind of happens in concert with the presentation, and that is in and of itself a little different than most other forms. Again, this is kind of like writing a script. You're going to like stand in front of somebody and you're going to like do this thing. It could be on Zoom. That's fine. You could share your screen. You kind of in a box down in the corner, just like I am. I'm down here in this box. Help me out. Help me. help me escape. Um, oh man, you would think that I've already started day drinking or something, but I guarantee I haven't. I've had probably 2 of these Coke Zeros, which I am paid $0 to talk about. Um, Having the final screen is great. If as we go through and we talk about screens like images, there's no way, a better way to do that than by observing and interacting with them. I feel division here, so I'm not really sure that that's a great image. We've been using it, but um, you know, one thing that we want to look at is like, what are some terminology? And again, you can go somewhere other than Unsplash. I'm just using Unsplash because I know it's royalty free. So if I say collaborate, see what we get for collaborate. Um, some of these work. I'm not sure about the gears. Um, that's not terrible. I don't like stay away from like the hands holding. Like that's very forced. Let's say customer. Very forced. Here they're working together. Um, this is not bad. That's terrible. Um, those are all bad, horrible. That's not terrible. I want to see that one larger. Yeah, that one's not bad. Um, you get a sense of place, although it seems like they're talking more than they're talking, which is a problem. So maybe not. But you get the idea. A lot of this comes down to what phrase can we use? Like here, that's pretty easy. This is going to be community. So if I search for community, again, stay away from the hands. Not good. That's pretty good. That's fine. Um, this is a bit forced. This feels okay. Kind of curious about this one. Not bad. It's more of like dinner than community, but I think you get the general idea. Um, Transparency. So this is going to be a little harder because transparency is not something that you can see. Literally, you can't see transparency. But let's think about what are you really talking about? You're talking about honesty. Okay. Can I even spell honesty? Maybe. Um, and maybe instead of honesty, we just search for honest. A lot of these are not fantastic. Clarity. That's kind of interesting. The ability to see. There's something about that I really like. Even though that's like a stock image, okay? You're when you go into these things that you can't see them, you're into the realm of stock images and illustration because you're leaning on that you're leaning on the visual to help you get to the metaphor. Let's just search for transparency. Shine. And I want to talk about like shine, like transparency, the ability for light to see through. I could see something, a metaphor like that, coming into play. Although like transparent, like the light coming through the tree, um, something along those lines. Um, Rippling off the water. I don't know about the rippling off the water, but sunrise. Here you're going to get all sorts of beautiful, like, you know, transparency, something like that. Um, handshake. I'm sure you'll get a lot of these, but you'll get one that's more environmental. Like this is Carter and the Middle East peace process, but the question here is, can we get a handshake that isn't so forced? And that's interesting. Takes some doing, but I'm sure it's in here. Actually, that's another good word, support. Because ultimately, it's not about the word you use to find it. It's about how you position it. So there's lots of hands here, but different. Dogs. That's great. Support. There was one more that I was interested in. Accounting. Or account. Not quite what I'm looking for. That one's a bit hard. Let's keep moving. Story, like storytelling. And maybe that's the key here. Like the storytelling, communication, needs, desires, generous, ethical, that one's interesting. I might look for break because it's strategic exceptions, strategy. I don't think you're going to get anything with balance or policy. Balance is going to be like somebody on a beam, little too on the nose. And these learning, be a nice person. It's like like that show you there. All right, be a nice person. I'm a nice person. I'm actually the example of this. You can look it up in Wikipedia. Don't go change Wikipedia to put a picture of you next to nice person. You're a nice person, but that's not the point. I did want to check feedback loop to make sure that nobody else is. I see. No. Okay. Now, kind of giving you some guidance there. Kind of gone off the deep end. Let's move over here to Charlie. Charlie is coming into the program, and I really excited. Definitely in more of a remote situation. All right, but you've got a series of positions that you're interested in. Okay, and this is always the first thing that I advise you to do when you're starting out as a designer, like figuring out, okay, where is it that I want to go. Anytime you're launching into a new job search, like before you start applying, look at your spectrum, okay? Like what's out there that you're interested in, because you could just blindly apply, but you've got to kind of define, okay, where am I trying to get to, okay? So you've got a few things here, and iThemes is one. It says the position the position yet to be posted. So this is interesting because you know about this before it's been posted, which is great. So right now, it says that it's an entry level position, looking for engaging conversation with the current UX lead for the company, gaining knowledge about tools she's using, experience. You have the major skill set you lack is experience. That's most people. Okay, that's most people getting started. That's like, okay, how do I get the experience? How do I get the experience? And we've talked about volunteer match. We talked with help with COVID. There are ways to get it. So I'm not necessarily worried. Like, I'm not worried about experience. We can get experience. Um, but it's okay. So you got an inside line here somehow. That's good. You always want to take a shot at those. So here's UX researcher at Unity. Now, you're a gamer, okay, and that's great. There's lots of needs. Gaming is growing. It's rapidly expanding, particularly in the absence of sport. Because of COVID, gaming is up and through the roof. So I imagine Unity is really busy hiring people. You have a passion for gaming and programming. Unity is the engine that many of my favorite games are built upon. I believe my research was one of the stronger parts of my path thus far. But for me, going into research as a career, I need to be in the field that I'm passionate about. Okay. Experience, yeah, you're missing some components explicitly that explicitly use terminology. Okay. Every one of my projects has this component, but it wasn't heavily leaned on. Okay. So that tells me that if you're wanting to go research, we need to get you into a research project post portfolio. Okay. There are tons of people looking for help with research. Luigi can tell you right away. He's been working on a project with AI for Good, doing research for refugee camps and the COVID breakouts that happen in refugee camps. Having phone calls with people in Japan and Pakistan and Africa. So just like those things are out there. UX designer at ZSA Labs. Most of the jobs have some form of interest for me as a designer. This one is a company that specializes in making custom keyboards for digital designers and gamers. Passion and interest peaked. I looked at their website and found a bunch of changes that I could make to get them in line with ADA. That's a great place to start. Talk about how, I can help you address some of your accessibility issues. They're going to say to you probably, if I had to guess, what accessibility issues? What are these accessibility issues you're speaking of? I think it's great to show them that there are things here that could bring them more in line and that would be beneficial to the broader audience. And you bring an immediate value add. You may be pointing out something to them that nobody else has really even mentioned. Okay, and it's weird because you would think that ADA compliance would be just across the board by this point, but it's not. I mean, there's all sorts of things that you would think would be across the board the same that simply are not. You lack experience in product design. You also lack hand coordination for illustration by hand. There's lots of people that do illustrations. I don't necessarily think that you have to do. You don't have to be a great artist to be a product designer, and you don't have to be a great product designer to be an artist. I think this idea that you got to mash all the stuff up. Somebody had a post this morning. They were like, "How do we possibly keep track of, and how do we keep ourselves competitive?" And for me, what I have backed away from doing is telling everybody that, hey, you got to do everything. You got to do it all. You got find your lane, find the things that you're interested in, which you're doing. Okay, every job that you've mentioned is something you have a underlying interest in it, which is why I think you're on the right path. Just applying for random UX jobs, probably not the best idea. Applying for UX jobs that are in an area or a field that you're interested in, a much better story to tell. You don't have to fake it when you say, I'm really interested in working for your company, because when you get to the why part, and it's a company like I have some pretty obscure interests that probably don't align with everybody else, and if I found a company that aligned with those obscure interests, I'd be in a pretty good spot because I can make a compelling pitch for why I'm interested and why they should work with me. And for you, I think you have some of that. There are UX designers in the program right now that I could tell you would have no interest in working on a gaming platform. It's like, gaming's not my thing. Gaming is your thing, and that's fine. This other thing where it was making themes and then there's custom keyboards. These are all kind of unique niches. But I also think it's interesting that you've got this one down here that, hey, there's a UX designer for a new game called Valorant. Job posting is no longer available. That basically did not have enough or any experience with UX design for games. Practically speaking, I've played games. I have recognized best UI UX within a game. I've noticed when positive changes have been made, but I've not done any specific UX UI for video games. And therein lies an issue. Like, if you're going to do like UX design for a game, it's like, how do you break into it? Now, I've had students go on to work at gaming studios, but they were coming from some sort of development background where they had familiarity and they'd worked on games. Like, here it's like, well, how do you even get like involved? For you, it would be I think it would be a getting involved with an existing game developer at an intern or volunteer like level, so that you need to learn how that organization builds products. Okay, I'm going to guess, and I have friends that work in that industry. I do not obviously have any experience in that industry, but I'm going to guess there's some overlap with product development as we experience it over here in the realm of websites and applications. And I'm going to guess that there are some very unique aspects as well. Everything goes through a product cycle, okay? So there is no like monolithic, we build it all and then we release it one day and it's done. Everybody's using sprints. Everybody's using some sort of agile framework to like get the ball across the line. But it's those specific tasks that those companies do that differ that we need you to figure out. Okay, so understanding the roles of UX and understanding the methods of UX allows you to then participate at a specific level at a particular type of company. I think you're at that point. So if you're wanting to go down this gaming route, which I see some of that, I would suggest that we begin to look at gaming opportunities and the pro bono, the internship, the volunteer. Like, are there organizations doing things in that sphere that we could tether to? We've got a lot of work to do on the portfolio. Okay, so that is not me saying that we can skip the portfolio work and just go do this stuff. You've got a lot of portfolio work to do. But if you're wanting to get claw at these particular types of jobs, we have a plan for that too. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to check one more time to make sure that we do not have something hanging out, and we do not. Correct. We're clear. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to bow out of here. It's my birthday, and I'm going to go chill out for a minute. I hope you have a great weekend, and we'll chat with all of you again on Monday. Take care.